Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode. Today is going to be some reflections on my post about the word Islam, which, to my understanding, means submission to the will of God. Now, I am no scholar or expert in this particular religion. I know very little about it, so I am not speaking or trying to speak about it at all. I do have some belief that, past what I call the superficialities, or let's say the hows, the whys, or, the roots of Islam and Christianity and, the major religions, they're all just different ways, different languages expressing the same fundamental ideas and addressing the same fundamental needs. That's just my belief. Um, in terms of the idea of submission to the will of God, I just came up with some ideas around what God is, and I don't know how or if these are true or if they're even helpful, but I was just playing around with the idea. So, um, kind of like how we are made up of billions, let's say, of cells. I don't know exactly how many. Um, my theory is that a cell is to us what we are to God. We're just like a cell, and maybe our entire universe is just one cell. Like, I don't know how high up this goes, if it goes up at all, but this is just a theory, right? And like cells, we're like both independent and separate, but we're also inextricably linked to whatever the larger organism is. And you know we both like try to survive and do our thing, but we also have, quote unquote, a higher purpose, which is the fact that we are part of a larger organism. And yeah, we are both a small part of the entire organism as well as the entire organism in a small part, right? Kind of like a cell. It contains most of the building blocks of your DNA and all that. So it's, in a way, it's both self-sufficient and not. And it is both a representation of the entire organism and also just a small part of the entire organism. So then I talk about consciousness, and this is kind of taken from Kierkegaard's video as well, in terms of the evolution of consciousness and what it really is. And fundamentally, it's, if you go back to single-celled organisms, you could argue that they're conscious because they respond to their environment and they try to survive. And then as organisms become more complex, maybe they develop ability to sense their environment, like through eyesight or through hearing, etc., etc. And so, um, basically, all living beings are conscious, and we've just developed the next stage of consciousness, if you will, which I would argue, or I believe, is that ability to have free will. It's not something that I believe other animals have. They kind of just run on the programming, and but it is the free will aspect that makes humans a little bit different. But all living things are therefore conscious, and we just have no idea, like, what is the next level if we're just a cell, right? And a cell is conscious in its own way, and what we are just a cell to whatever higher organism there is, and so we can't really even comprehend that the level of consciousness that individual would possess. And likewise, in cells, some become cancers, and sometimes that spreads, and it can bring down the demise of the host. And so therefore, humans, or we can also become quote unquote cancerous to the higher organism, which in this case I'll just call God, which you know we can technically, if this spreads, if our cancerous ideas or our cancerous whatever actions spread, then we can bring down our host as well. uh, and so in the end, it might all just come down to survival. Just like we are trying to survive, maybe God is just trying to survive, and it's just like a different organism, um, far more complex than we are. Maybe, I don't know how far. And then it begs the question: how far up the ladder does this go? If this theory is true, um, you know, how far up does it go? Like, who is then maybe the next level higher organism has another? It's only a small part of another higher organism, and yeah, there's just no way to wrap our minds around it. At the end of the day, is this a useful idea? Is it true? No idea. Is it useful? Maybe. I think it's fun to think about. I think it does continue to promote the notion that we are all one, that we are all connected, that we all matter, that we're all both special and not special. Um, and so, yeah, in terms of as a survival mechanism, I guess this idea is helpful in fostering more peace and cooperation and harmony. Um, but again, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to prove whether this is objectively true, but it's just something fun to think about. And how does this relate to surrendering? I guess it's more about like going with the flow of the higher organism, and recognizing that we're just a small part of a potentially much larger and more complex consciousness. Mm. So yeah, that's it. Hope that made sense and something to think about.